paradox which belongs to few, a capacity of happiness. Her delicate organisation and creative imagination rendered her peculiarly susceptible of pleasurable emotion. The overflowing warmth of her heart, by making love a plant of deep root and stately growth, had attuned her whole soul to the reception of happiness, when she found in Raymond all that could adorn love and satisfy her imagination. But if the sentiment on which the fabric of her existence was founded became commonplace through participation, the endless succession of attentions and graceful actions snapped by transfer, his universe of love wrested from her, happiness must depart, and then be exchanged for its opposite. The same peculiarities of character rendered her sorrows agonies. Her fancy magnified them, her sensibility made her for ever open to their renewed impression. Love envenomed the heart-piercing sting. There was neither submission, patience, nor self-abandonment in her grief. She fought with it, struggled beneath it, and rendered every pang more sharp by resistance. Again and again the idea recurred that he loved another. She did him justice. She believed that he felt a tender affection for her, but give a paltry prize to him who in some life-pending lottery has calculated on the possession of tens of thousands, and it will disappoint him more than a blank. The affection and amity of a Raymond might be inestimable, but beyond that affection, embosomed deeper than friendship, was the indivisible treasure of love. Take the sum in its completeness, and no arithmetic can calculate its price. Take from it the smallest portion, give it but the name of parts, separate it into degrees and sections, and like the magician's coin, the valueless gold of the mine is turned to vilest substance. There is a meaning in the eye of love, a cadence in its voice, an irradiation in its smile, the talisman of whose enchantments one can only possess. Its spirit is elemental, its essence single, its divinity a unit. The very heart and soul of Raymond and Perdita had mingled, even as two mountain brooks that join in their descent, and murmuring and sparkling flow over shining pebbles beside starry flowers. But let one desert its primal course, or be dammed up by choking obstruction, and the other shrinks in its altered banks. Perdita was sensible of the failing of the tide that fed her life. Unable to support the slow withering of her hopes, she suddenly formed a plan, resolving to terminate at once the period of misery, and to bring to an happy conclusion the late disastrous events. The anniversary was at hand of the exaltation of Raymond to the office of Protector, and it was customary to celebrate this day by a splendid festival. A variety of feelings urged Perdita to shed double magnificence over the scene, yet as she arrayed herself for the evening gala, she wondered herself at the pains she took to render sumptuous the celebration of an event which appeared to her the beginning of her sufferings. Woe before the day, she thought, woe, tears, and mourning betide the hour that gave Raymond another hope than love, another wish than my devotion, and thrice joyful the moment when he shall be restored to me. God knows I put my trust in his vows, and believe his asserted faith. But for that I would not seek what I am now resolved to attain. Shall 2 years more be thus passed, each day adding to our alienation, each act being another stone piled on the barrier which separates us? No, my Raymond, my only beloved, sole possession of Perdita. This night, this splendid assembly, these sumptuous apartments, and this adornment of your tearful girl, are all united to celebrate your abdication. Once, for me, you relinquished the prospect of a crown. That was in days of early love, when I could only hold out the hope, not the assurance of happiness. Now you have the experience of all that I can give, the heart's devotion, taintless love, and unhesitating subjection to you. You must choose between these and your protectorate. This, proud noble, is your last night. Perdita has bestowed on it all of magnificent and dazzling that your heart best loves. But from these gorgeous rooms, from this princely attendance, from power and elevation, you must return with tomorrow's sun to our rural abode. For I would not buy an immortality of joy by the endurance of one more week, sister, to the last. Brooding over this plan, resolved when the hour should come to propose and insist upon its accomplishment, secure of his consent, the heart of Perdita was lightened, or rather exalted. Her cheek was flushed by the expectation of struggle, her eyes sparkled with the hope of triumph. Having cast her fate upon a die, and feeling secure of winning, she, whom I have named as bearing the stamp of Queen of Nations on her noble brow, now rose superior to humanity, and seemed in calm power to arrest with her finger the wheel of destiny. She had never before looked so supremely lovely. We, the Arcadian shepherds of the tale, had intended to be present at this festivity, but Perdita wrote to entreat us not to come, or to absent ourselves from Windsor, for she, though she did not reveal her scheme to us, resolved the next morning to return with Raymond to our dear circle, there to renew a course of life in which she had found entire felicity. Late in the evening she entered the apartments appropriated to the festival. Raymond had quitted the palace the night before. He had promised to grace the assembly, but he had not yet returned. Still she felt sure that he would come at last, and the wider the breach might appear at this crisis, the more secure she was of closing it for ever. It was, as I said, the 19th of October. The autumn was far advanced and dreary. The wind howled. The half bare trees were despoiled of the remainder of their summer ornament. The state of the air which induced the decay of vegetation was hostile to cheerfulness or hope. Raymond had been exalted by the determination he had made, but with the declining day his spirits declined. First he was to visit Evadne, and then to hasten to the palace of the Protectorate. As he walked through the wretched streets in the neighbourhood of the luckless Greek's abode, his heart smote him for the whole course of his conduct towards her. First, his having entered into any engagement that should permit her to remain in such a state of degradation, and then, after a short wild dream, having left her to drear solitude, anxious conjecture, and bitter still, disappointed expectation. What had she done the while? How supported his absence and neglect? Light grew dim in these close streets, and when the well-known door was opened, the staircase was shrouded in perfect night. He groped his way up. He entered the garret. He found Evadne stretched speechless, almost lifeless, on her wretched bed. He called for the people of the house, but could learn nothing from them, except that they knew nothing. Her story was plain to him, plain and distinct as the remorse and horror that darted their fangs into him. When she found herself forsaken by him, she lost the heart to pursue her usual avocations. Pride forbade every application to him. Famine was welcomed as the kind porter to the gates of death, within whose opening folds she should now, without sin, quickly repose. No creature came near her, as her strength failed. If she died, where could there be found on record a murderer whose cruel act might compare with his? What fiend more wanton in his mischief? What damned soul more worthy of perdition? But he was not reserved for this agony of self-reproach. He sent for medical assistance. The hours passed, spun by suspense into ages. The darkness of the long autumnal night yielded to day before her life was secure. He had her then removed to a more commodious dwelling, and hovered about her again and again to assure himself that she was safe. In the midst of his greatest suspense and fear as to the event, he remembered the festival given in his honour by Perdita. In his honour then, when misery and death